All right. What's up, y'all? This is Homeroom with Smooth. We about to start an episode soon. Just waiting on my guests to get in here. Um, really, I'm just here to chop it up with y'all ahead of time. You know what I'm saying? Get the stream going. Get my stream going. What's going on here? All right, cool. Cool. Yeah, I gotta figure out what I'm doing. Real quick. Yeah, but anyway, man, how y'all doing today? Man, I should have been. So what's gonna end up happening is there's gonna be a lot less content. I'm in this training environment for work. So there's gonna be a lot less content coming. Um, I got a couple videos that's just slated. This is on the way. Like the pod's never stopping. You're always gonna get podcast episodes. This is always gonna happen. Um, it's just always gonna happen. I'm not falling off like that. That's for damn sure. Um, yeah, that's for damn sure. I'm not falling off. But at the same time, like it's just crazy, man. It's just crazy. Um, the way things is going and moving. I like the direction that I'm headed. Um, I'm just not able to properly execute right now, but I'm headed in a good direction. I'm headed in a direction that I need to stop looking at myself and looking at the camera, look at you guys. That is something that I've always struggled with. But yeah, normally I have my 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 light, my camera behind my monitor, but there's just not enough space with the way this is set up. I mean, unless I did like this number and I like moved it up here, but see, it just pulls on the cord. It's not good. I'll do that instead. Yeah, just one of those things, man. Um, oh shoot, not the internet issue, not the internet. Okay, snap back. Snapback, you got this. You got this. Snapback, there we go. I don't need no Wi-Fi issues. What's cracking, bro?
Hey, all right. Give me 1 second. Let me just flip my chat on to this, and then we
Okay.
good. Yeah, that looks good on my end. Yeah.
Okay, you good?
Yeah, I'm good here. Excited for
All
this.
right. Cool, man. Hey, good having you on, man.
Yeah, thanks for. I don't even know how you found me. How did you find it?
How did I find you? So honestly, you end up joining my you joined one of my other chats. Like I had the initial like homeroom with smooth thing, and I think you joined that one. Maybe somebody invited you. I don't know, or maybe you were just suggested to me because we're always in Prime's server.
Oh, I haven't. I just put it in Prime server. I haven't been actually on those yet.
Yeah. So I put myself in there too, and you know what I'm saying. I think Discord thought we were like buddy because we're in the same thing and we're always posting. So it suggested you to me, and then I was like, oh okay. And then I went and checked out your stuff, and I was like, oh okay, he's cool. I'll invite him to my server.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, I appreciate it. I'm always looking to talk to more people. I enjoy these
Uh,
conversations.
oh yeah, for sure, man. Um, man, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, cool. I'm ready. Let me move my mic because I do not have that in the ideal position. There we go. Stop it. There we go. All right, cool. All right, I'm just gonna hit my little intro and we'll be good to go.
It's up and stuck. Homeroom with Smooth brings it down to Miami. Let's get it. So it's just Celine and the motherfucking beauty.
All right, y'all. So this is Homeroom with Smooth. I got with me Fresh Faces New Ideas, and we're here to talk about. Wait, let me back up myself just real quick. This is episode 103 of the Homeroom with Smooth podcast. Got to make sure I say that. But I got with me my guest here, Fresh Faces New Ideas. How you doing today, man?
I'm good. I just I finished my stream. I kind of skipped talking about any of the Joe Rogan stuff because I figured we'd go over it today.
Oh yeah. Hey, I appreciate that. Cause you be on it, man. I be watching. I'm like, dang, he already got that too.
No, I love this stuff. Like people be like, yeah, have you seen X, Y, or Z shows? Like, nah, bro. They're like, what do you do? It's like, I watch politics all the time. I follow all of it. Like with the all the panels that are like 3 hours, I watch them. I keep track of everything. I don't always cover all the Twitter nonsense because some of it is just like it's too stupid to waste my time with, but I'm aware of it. No, you gotta. I pride myself on knowing all the facts and the data and stuff.
Hey, that's impressive. That's impressive. That's really impressive, man. But yeah, with like you said, we're here to talk about Joe Rogan, man. So, what are your initial thoughts on the Joe Rogan thing? What's your initial feeling right out the gate?
Yeah, I just before you, do you want me to do a quick disclaimer to your audience who I am?
Oh yeah, you can. Yes, yeah.
So I'm Fresh Faces New Ideas. You can find me on Twitch at Fresh Faces, twitch.tv/Fresh Faces New Ideas. You can find me on Twitter at Faces Ideas. The link to my Discord and my Patreon and stuff are on that. I am a political streamer who has occasionally done video games. I will do more of that once I have a better setup and stuff. I usually stream 5 to 7 p.m. EST during the week, and then on the weekends, if I don't show up on panel, I don't normally stream. But yeah, I love politics. I love talking about it. So the Joe Rogan stuff it's complicated. So there's a couple of different things to it. Before we talk about this, we have to go to the conclusion. I'm going to comment this. I'm not a free speech absolutist. I think the idea that you can say whatever you want, or that no platform has the ability to have their own TOS is a terrible idea.
Yeah.
I think first off, if they have that, all the places that do that end up like terrible. You end up like 8chan. If you have no like TOS, people aren't going to want to come to your platform. They're going to end up with like people being harassed. You're going to end up with pedophilia. You're going to end up with like Nazi stuff.
Yeah.
So this idea that this comes into like a broader idea of cancel culture and Joe Rogan being like silenced and stuff. My man's got $100 million for this. Like he had a podcast before Spotify got him, in the same way that like The Ringer, which was Bill Simmons' basketball podcast or program, after Grantland crumbled, that's on Spotify too. That existed before Spotify. So having him not on Spotify doesn't mean he's silenced. The other thing that comes to this is you don't have a right to a podcast in the same way that you and I don't have a right to me on Twitch, or you and your podcast and Twitch as well. Like that's not under the Constitution. We don't have that right. We're getting back to Joe Rogan. So there's a couple things to Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan is not just somebody who's asking questions. He has biases. He has some terrible conversations, terrible takes. He also has a wide range of guests on. That is true. Yeah. The range of guests has changed over time, but it's also at a certain point you have to worry about platforming. Like, to be clear, Joe Rogan's podcast get like 11 million views. Tucker Carlson is the number one watched news anchor in the country. News anchor in quotes. He gets 4 million views.
Yeah.
So when you reach that many people, you have it like a certain amount of accountability that you have. You can't just ask questions. And I'm sure we'll get to his apology video, because even that is nonsense. But the other thing to know about Joe Rogan is Joe Rogan will change how he responds to people depending on who he talks to. Like if he believes the person he's talking to is more intelligent than he is, or is more knowledgeable or more capable of having the conversation, he'll push back less. Like he'll push back less on Ben Shapiro than on Dave Rubin, even if they're saying the same thing.
Yeah.
So that's something to be aware of. So like when has like even if you compare his conversation with Sajid Gupta That was the CNN guy, right?
Yeah.
And then the other two doctors that the big issue came from. You can see he's much more combative with Sanjay Gupta because he feels more comfortable arguing those points than he does the doctors. Because let's be clear, they're just lunatics. The Peter McAuliffe at one point in the interview, I don't know if he opened with this or this was the middle of it, said that none of the vaccines have been approved and they're also using their emergency youth authorization. And Joe didn't say anything to that. That's a very factual statement,
right?
That is just so easily provable false.
Yeah.
So that's generally where I stand on it. I know there's some other things like in the last couple of days. There's the contemplation of him saying the N-word.
Yeah.
You and I've kind of briefly talked about that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah, that is.
My issue with that is less of who he's saying that to and more the people it's going, because the other one is the one where he's talking like race science. That's a bigger problem.
Yeah.
Than him saying the
The race science thing. I think they're both like equally as bad. Like saying the race science stuff is just factually just wrong, and then you had the him just saying the N-word, and it's the number of times. I'm like, you had to delete 100 episodes now.
Well, I don't know if that doesn't all. So I haven't looked into this, but I don't think that's all due to the N-word stuff. I think because
but it looks bad. It's
more of a problematic thing because of some of them. I think this was actually something I was talking to somebody else because apparently Kyle Kalinski's episode was removed, and I watched that episode. And what Kyle is claiming is that it was removed because he was talking about Saudi. He was talking bad about Saudi Arabia, and Spotify is trying to move into that market now. To me, that seems a little conspiratorial unless we look into every single one of the other podcasts that were removed and some of the ones that remain, and whether all the ones that are removed talk negatively about Saudi Arabia removed and the ones that are positive remain. Like, unless you can prove that seems a little bit more of a conspiratorial claim.
Yeah.
And that's just where I stand on that. Like, there's certainly issues like with corporations doing that. Movies do that all the time. They have the problem with China and stuff. So that's where I would say.
Yeah. Marvel bends the knee to China. They're like, please show our movie, please.
Well, there was the last not Bumblebee, the Transformer movie, like the last Transformer movie, where they like halfway through the movie they just randomly moved to China for the half of it. That was like clearly a marketing thing.
Yeah. True. They'll do anything. They'll do anything for that market. But to get back on subject though, for me, one, do I have an overall problem with Joe Rogan's show in concept? No, I don't. To be honest, I don't. Because he has some really cool guests, and there's some really great content, on his platform. However, the problem then becomes like his I want to say like you said, like the other guests, it's when he decides not to push back or he decides to lean in to stuff that's just absolutely just ludicrous, and I'm like, somebody in the room has to know better. Somebody, the producer, him, like the camera guy.
I don't know if he has a producer. I know he has a Jamie, and I think Jamie does some of it. Now, there's a couple things to that too. Like, there's stuff like when you're having a conversation, and this is what's going on with like his apology video.
Yeah.
So when we talk about his apology video, I covered that. First off, he starts off by just lying, just straight up lying, like saying all this information is been removed. You can't talk about it, things like that.
Right.
And everything he quotes is just not true. So this is a recurring issue that we have that Pete kind of leans into, and dishonest people lean into. This idea that conspiracy theories that existed throughout the entirety of the pandemic, which they argue have been made true now, could therefore have been true throughout the entire thing. Like, for example, masks. They argue, cloth masks haven't worked throughout the entirety of the pandemic because now they just admitted it. Except that's not what they said.
Right.
So things like that. So that was what he was pushing. And then this is the part that like is clearly a lie, where he said, I don't know who I'm talking about or what I'm talking about before I walk into the studio. Except that can't be true because you're Like if you're having one of his friends on, like in the movies or like one of the Fight Club guys, that's different.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're having like Peter McAuliffe on, if you're
Yeah.
having Robert Malone on, if you're having like
Mm-hmm.
it, or flip it, if you're having I don't remember if Bernie went on, because I do have a list of people. We'll get to that. If you're talking to what's his face, Cornel West, if you have
Right.
certain people on, you know, like if you have Kyle Kalinske on, you know what you're going to talk about. Like this idea that I don't know anything about who I'm talking to or who I'm talking about. So like just random people off the street come into my studio. They all happen to be
Right.
famous. Like that is a lie. Like you wouldn't have like that's a terrible argument. It's like, oh, he's just a regular person having these conversations. Like, no. If you were a regular person, you'd grab regular people off the street.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't say like, oh, I had no idea who I was doing or what I was doing. There's like, then why did you invite that person? Like you had to reach out and schedule it, or they reached out to you. And if you at this point have such a large platform and you don't vet these people,
Mm-hmm.
how do you know you're not going to have like somebody who's going to be a Holocaust denier, somebody who is going to, or the multiple people who have been, I mean, look, we're not that far out from Joe doing like election conspiracies.
Yeah.
And a lot of this has to do with, there's a couple differences. He got a lot of backlash when he came out for Bernie. And so he kind of like shunned the left. And also, I imagine if he was like looking at a metric, he's more conspiratorial. Like he is, just is. He's like a kind of like a big doofy guy who is more conspiratorial. So these things are more easier for him to relate to, and that's why like he's like friends with Alex Jones, and he's like the Ben Shapiro types. Like the only thing he like they'll push back on the weed stuff. He has this very centered view of certain issues. So it is a little bit easier for him to end up in these conspiracy theories, especially if you end up with them, because he's not afraid, he's not comfortable pushing back. Like you can see some of these like things, like what when he was talking to Jordan Peterson, and Jordan Peterson, it's just a guy who just babbles a lot. Or if he's talking to somebody like Ben Shapiro, who talks a million miles an hour, and if you're not somebody who's well versed in the issues, or you're not like saying, "Hold on, Ben, give me a minute to break down what you just said sentence by sentence," you're gonna like kind of just nod and agree to it. So that's why like you'll see him, like Dave Rubin is never coming back on that program. Like Joe won't have him on because Dave Rubin's a moron. I don't like he's not gonna have people like Sam Cedar on, because let's be honest, a podcast with Sam Cedar would be very boring in comparison to like Ben Shapiro. Because I love Sam Cedar because he's like the type of person that I really care about when we're doing these type of things, where they're talking about like all the little nitty gritty and understanding those factors. Like, Joe isn't going to do that. That's where the problem is. So the realist issue with Joe is he has a massive platform at this point, and just saying, "Oh, I'm going to bring on more righties or more lefties to compare," is like, just be honest, man. Like you have a meme folder. There was that guy he was talking to a couple days ago or a couple weeks ago, where the guy like directly called him out, and then Joe was like, "Well, Jamie, pull that up because I have this information that says that the guy is wrong," and the guy did it, and he was just like, "Well, I'm not really wrong." That's a bigger issue.
Yeah, man. And then to go back to the apology video, like there's no context around like saying the things that he said, like because I think they pulled up where he said like transphobic comments, the N-word, and then there was something else, and then I was left wondering like, how is he the one left untouched? Like really when you look at his social media following and his views on his podcast and all that, really he's remained untouched. Like he's not going anywhere. But like The Rock is getting slammed. Who's that other person that was in support of him? Like there's a numerous number of celebs that are just getting like raked over the coals now.
Well,
but Joe Rogan's like just invincible. He's just like, "Oh, I'm sorry."
No, look, Joe Rogan is not invincible. He's he has this mystique built around him, like this kind of like similar to Donald Trump with the Teflon type thing. Like but he actually like admits faults. But like if you follow them long enough, like a lot. Like the transphobic stuff has been out there for a long time. The like a lot of the racism stuff has been out there sometimes. But yeah, it's like it depends on who's backing you. So this is part of the the other thing with him is Joe Rogan has the support of the loudest minorities in our country right now. So the Republican Party, as it stands, does not have and has not had a majority support in any election except for 2004.
Mm-hmm.
They are not, as they like to pretend they are, the silent majority. They won't shut the fuck up minority. They are loud and they're promoting him, and that has helped bolstering him. Another story that came out is Rumble offered him $100 million.
Oh, for over 4 years. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know that Rumble has that money. I don't know how solvent Rumble is. I don't know anything about it. Other than I've had some of my chatters talk to me about it to argue stuff that anti-vax stuff. Dinesh D'Souza is releasing his movie on Rumble, which is I can't wait.
Right.
But like, it's not like he's not going to disappear. He has a huge audience, and a lot of that has been cultivated by the fact that he's kind of presented himself as this everyday man. And occasionally he'll have, a couple of crazy people on. But a lot of times, most people like don't religiously follow it, and then they ignore most of the mundane ones. So it's all going to come down to, how much is it going to hurt Spotify's bottom line if they, and that's kind of why they started deleting the episodes. I imagine if you really wanted to go back to it, if any time they brought on a person, you probably could go and find episodes and stuff that they removed. Now, obviously, is all the like the Bill Simmons podcast, are they going to have the same amount of episodes removed for racial stuff as a Joe Rogan podcast? No, but you would have to compare it to some other type of like sit down pod. And look, I'm not like, I imagine if we compared it to your podcast, you probably wouldn't have the same amount of episodes removed. Well, also, you don't have anywhere near the volume because Joe Rogan had over 100 removed, and this is what, episode 103 or something. Like,
yeah. He has like thousands of episodes, like thousands. Like
he's been doing it for a long time. And like to say that he's the everyday man, like Fear Factor was one of those reality shows where they're like, "Hey, poor people, you want to do some crazy shit for money?" Like he's not like the everyday man. And then the craziest thing is like he has said some things about COVID that are just flat out like you don't need to get vaccinated if you're under a certain age. But then he was like, when he another good one, when he was pushing back on Sanjay Gupta when they were talking about the ivermectin. So the reason when ivermectin was the craze, people were talking about it as a horse dewormer, is because there's two separate drugs. There is a horse version and there is a people version. The reason it was considered a horse dewormer because that's the one they were getting, because doctors weren't giving it to people, so they were just like going and buying it at the stable stores or whatever the feed store is, wherever they could find it.
Yeah.
So that's how people correlated to. Obviously, Joe Rogan with his millions and millions of dollars was not going to take the horse one. He was going to take the human one. He also took like a dozen other things that you or I may not be able to afford. Yeah. Like Regeneron costs like $1,500 a cycle, or however often you use it. Like this is these are expensive treatments that he of course used, but I guess he's young and healthy and now he doesn't need it. Like that's the problem. Is
he got the antibodies too, right?
Yeah, but even then you should still get vaccinated. Then this is another thing.
Oh no. I'm just saying, like he's attributing it to ivermectin, but he got like antibodies from somebody that
he got the Regeneron, he got the Z-Pack, he got the I don't even remember what else they would give, the cortisone. They they dump moon crystals out of, like, you name it, he got it. He got like essentially whatever Donald Trump could have gotten. That's basically what Joe Rogan, or whatever non-experimental hidden procedures that only the president gets. That's what Joe Rogan got.
Yeah. That's crazy. So, what did I want to say about that? So what do you think about just Spotify? Because Spotify seems like they're just screwed no matter what they decide to do. They're screwed. Like their stock is just going to keep losing value. They have no win. They have no win condition. Like, keep Joe Rogan, you keep getting flamed. You get rid of them, you get flamed more.
I think it's waited out. I think that's probably what's going to happen. They'll put the disclaimers on Joe Rogan will have like a couple of doctors and stuff on for a while. Maybe Spotify will work a little more closely with him about who they have on. And this will roll over. He'll have a couple people on. The problem is with Joe's audience is like what they want to watch. Like if they want to listen to the anti-vax stuff, and this is a not just a Joe Rogan problem. This is a any type of problem when you start leaning into a certain type of content, you either attract or start training your audience for that way. So like if you look at people like Jimmy Dore, who started on the left, and they're now basically an anti-vaxxer, and because that's where the money was. So if that's where his audience is, it's going to be a little harder for him to move away. Now, I think they can do as much as they can with the disclaimers. I don't expect them to remove Joe Rogan. I imagine in like 2 weeks, there'll be some other controversy that'll happen that will distract people from COVID. There'll be another anti-vax rally. There'll be something else. Because look, the Joe Rogan things, they're in between. They're like few and far in between. He does them, I think, like every week or something, doesn't he? I don't follow as often as he does. But there's only like a couple of them. Like in the last couple of months, I can only name like 4 of them that he did because those are the ones that came to attention. So as long as he just like kind of hides under the radar for a little while, nobody's going to care. Because we have a 10-second attention. We have such a small attention span, and there's so much actual going on. Like the former president of the United States, like every day we get more information about how he tried to overturn the election, and people are just like, we lose a 9/11's worth of people a day, and people are just like, I want to go back to regular life. Like nobody cares. Nobody's gonna care in 2 weeks, unless it has somebody who says something crazy.
Yeah, you got a good point with that. Like you got a really good point with that. Like they just I've never seen like people just, one, they don't care to inform themselves, and 2, they just forget really, really fast. Like I'm like, y'all know Trump they just found this other thing. Oh, nah, whatever. Like he's still my guy. I'm like, so you're gonna vote for him this next election, even though they proved that he's fraudulent. He's a fraud. He's a comment. He's the same guy that he was before we elected him. And you're like, okay.
Yeah, no, like, I don't know if you want to talk because I love this. This is one of my favorite topics. The January 6th stuff. So this is a one that's like really crazy. So first off, McCarthy fucked up by pulling all of them off the committee. He doesn't have, because they're supposed, I think in April they're going to live hearings. Because he pulled all 3 of the other ones off, one of which was Jim Banks, who's actually insane. Less outwardly insane, but Jim Banks is basically a 3-year-old because after Joe Biden basically called Peter Doocy a dumb son of a bitch, Jim Banks was like, has any president ever treated the press as poorly? It's like, bro, like a year ago, they tried to murder the press. Like, relax.
Yes.
The January 6th thing, this is not like the Russian investigation or the Ukraine investigation, where there was like enough of a kernel that they could like pick at to make like somebody who's not paying complete attention to everything. Ignore this. Everything that comes out about the January 6th, none of it is defensible. There is no part of this that has come out that's been like, hey, that was kind of acceptable. There was, we have the executive orders, and then that tied into the fake electors, and then that tied into like all these other, like the case is building. There's no point where someone can look at this and go, yeah, but he's still kind of right, because even the underlying points are still wrong. So it's not like this is a big thing that they can do. And I mean, just today. So like last week, they got the National Archives records, and they're like, oh, well, a whole bunch of them were torn up. I was like, yeah. Did everyone not know this? They wrote about this in 2018, that Donald Trump, when he's done with papers, will just like tear them up. Except that's illegal, because there's a presidential what's it called? You're supposed to keep the records. They
keep them forever.
People in the White House whose job it was to go through his trash and tape the records back together, the papers back together. Like this was in 2018, and I figured people do this. So like when this became a news story, it's like, oh, I guess people don't pay attention to in any way. And then today they had to go down and get 15 boxes from Mar-a-Lago of National Archives records. Now, look, some of them are Like his love letters to Kim Jong-un, I don't give a shit. If he wanted to keep them, I don't care. But like 15 boxes of stuff, and apparently some of it is also furniture, because that's what billionaires do. They take furniture from from their old places of,
I'm starting to think he's not even a billionaire anymore.
Oh no, he's not. He's not. All his assets are inflated. That
New York probe is like crazy because they just keep finding more and more. Like she's like, this building is not even worth half of this.
The building isn't even as tall as he says it is.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the insane part. Like, look, there is no defense for January 6th. The fact that the Democratic Party has failed to garner this, not even just like the support, like in a functioning democracy, what would have happened after January 6th would have been the party that still defends it wouldn't be in power for a generation till the people who, watched it happen kind of died.
Right.
But like they might win the House and the Senate back in 22 because we can't message properly and Americans don't care that one party has decided democracy is not really worth it anymore.
That's also because none of them are really like anybody they keep trying to put in front of us aren't the charismatic people that people care about. Like if you want people to talk, like Democrats need to just kind of lean into the people that people like hearing from, like the people that are popular. Like I don't care if you are the party head, just step aside for a second and let this person that has the ear of the people talk to them, because you're going to lose if you don't. Like Well,
I mean, so out of curiosity, who would you say that should be talking more? Because I know who I think should be talking more.
So people that should be talking more, you have like maybe like for people that are more like moderate and kind of like in between, you could have like an Andrew Yang come up there and talk. You could have AOC. She has a great fan base that rallies around her. Like just her. I'm not talking about the rest of them because then you get to getting hit with hit pieces and all that other stuff. Just her. You know what I'm saying?
AOC has notoriously never had any hit pieces against her.
Huh?
AOC has historically never had any hit pieces against her, and is not a controversial figure in any way, shape, or form.
No. She definitely has. She definitely has. But when you get the four of them together, the
Ilhan Omar and stuff. Yeah. I agree. So I do agree. AOC is one of them. I think Jamal Bowman and Mondaire Jones, who's my representative, is another.
Wait. Who are these two?
Jamal Bowman and Mondaire Jones. They're the two progressives out of New York. They're
House reps.
House reps, yes.
Okay. I know who you're talking about now. Yeah. I'm like initially I was like, there's no sense. Okay, yeah.
No, they're also good ones. Now, Andrew Yang is an interesting one that you brought up because he just came out and defended Joe Rogan's N-word use. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I did just see that, but at the same time, you have to kind of Trojan horse those people that are kind of like not quite like they're over there on that other side, but they could be convinced to come a little bit more this way. And Andrew Yang kind of speaks to them a little bit, like some of those people that are kind of in the in-between. So you need to kind of move them a little bit more to the left if you want to win. You just need to just get just enough of them.
Right. No, I agree that we do need to. So one of the big issues is the left is not inclusive. We eat our own all the time, and we're very gatekeepy. There's like the super gatekeepy. Oh, you can't be a leftist unless you've read all of Marxism, all of Marx, all of Lenin, and do theory. Yeah. I don't read theory. I famously tell people that I don't read theory and I don't argue theory. But like the right leads everybody in. Now the problem I have with Andrew Yang is he kind of has baby brain when it comes to politics. Like his idea that, we should work together is a good idea. But the way he like talks about it and like even his party stuff is kind of baby brained. To me, it just seems like basically a very simplistic thing. I have no problem if we had like decent moderates. I always thought Hakeem Jeffries was an interesting choice as a moderate. Even in like the Senate, I don't know where like our moderates would be. Ed Markey, maybe, even though he's a little more progressive. Like there's we do need to have ones. Like having Nancy Pelosi is not effective because they hate her and she can't speak.
Yes.
And she's or like a good one would be like if you did the Georgia senators, if you're gonna put somebody in the Senate to have the face of it, and unfortunately it's Manchin cinema because Joe Manchin loves spotlight and cinema has made it her mission to get as many Democrats defeated as possible. So they can't, like, the people who really should be carrying the torch are people like Ossoff and Warnock. I really like Warnock. I think hopefully he wins re-election because he's a guy who, like, in 24, 28, that could be a bench guy for like a presidential run.
Yeah, him. That other guy out of I can't think of his name right now. Out of Texas. He's pretty popular. Beto.
Beto. Yeah, I don't think Beto's gonna win.
No. I don't think he's gonna win, but I think as far as like talking to people,
he's charismatic, but I think he's got a lot of issues with the gun stuff. I think is a big issue for him. Is why he's done it. I think, look, Beto.
If we moved him off the gun stuff, I think we could.
I don't know how you're going to move the most famous Texas Democrat, like, out of office. If you're going to talk about famous Democrats, number one is Stacey Abrams, and number two is probably Beto O'Rourke. Like, he is they made him the face of the national gun stuff. Beto was hurt in the presidential election by Pete Buttigieg because Pete Buttigieg basically took all Beto's lines and made them more moderate. And that was a problem. Like, he took what Beto's run should have been. And honestly, if Pete hadn't existed, we probably would have been in a better place just as a party, because I think having a deeper bench with Beto instead of Pete and having Pete like flip spots with them, I think would have been more effective. Because look, if Joe Biden is not popular, Kamala Harris is a terrible pick for vice president.
Yeah.
The best option then would be like Pete Buttigieg. Like, that's not really a great. You think America's going to vote for a 37-year-old, I don't know, 40-year-old gay guy to be president?
Yeah.
Like having Beto in that spot realistically would have been better for us, and then have Pete like as the VP pick. But we don't live in that world. But no, I agree. We should be having more people. The other problem is we have to have our just general messaging, right? Like, if we're going to talk about policy, it's like, let's say you believe in the idea, we don't want to talk about kitchen table issues. Okay, let's talk policy. Compare your policy to that. What is the most consistent healthcare plan of the Republican Party, basically since Obamacare has passed? Can you articulate what their healthcare plan is?
No.
That's because they've had basically two. It has been the most up-to-date version we've gotten of the healthcare plan from the Republican Party since Obamacare's passing has been Donald Trump one time saying that, hey, I'm going to make healthcare more accessible and cheaper for everyone, unintentionally advocating for Medicare for all, and then the Obamacare repeal. That's it. And the Obamacare repeal is basically how many people we're going to make have no insurance. They have had no healthcare solution. Yeah, I don't care if we don't need to get into an argument of Medicare for all versus public option. We lost that fight, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Hopefully we have a public option because we're not even there anymore. We're doing like Cobra subsidies. Let's push the public option and run on. They have no plan. You want to talk about the economy? Okay. The Republican plan is tax cuts for the rich because in the next 50 years, it'll work where the previous 50 years haven't worked. Like, that's where it's other than we want to do a ground up situation where every study shows if you just hand Americans cash, they're better off. Like, every study shows it. There's no study that doesn't show that. Like, contrary to Joe Manchin's belief, just handing Americans cash doesn't substantially raise the use of their drug use, or it doesn't substantially raise the number of people who are buying a car. Like expending extravagantly. That's not how it works for the poor middle class. And that's how you actually save the economy. The only thing we did well during the pandemic was the unenhanced unemployment. That was actually what kept the economy afloat. And studies have shown that. The fact that run on, and you could run against this in Manchin cinema too, that the Republican Party is currently doing a tax cut. It's a massive tax raise on every American who got the child tax credit because the child tax credit expired. The Republican Party will never give you another one. They didn't want to give it to you in the first place, and that helped millions of Americans. We cut child poverty by like 40%. I think the numbers last year were from July through December, we raised something like 12 to 20 million children out of poverty.
Damn. That's crazy.
And it's gone. Because Joe Manchin and every single Republican and Kirsten Sinema decided that you deserve to get a massive tax raise.
Facts.
And just run on that. And look, there are times where it's like vote blue no matter who makes sense in the general. In the primary, it's you vote for the farthest left candidate who can in every race. Like that's my idea. And there's times when you can argue for force the vote and things, but there's more strategies than this. We need to be smarter. We need to be more organized about this. We need to focus especially on governorships, and we have to win.
Yeah.
The Board of Elections, the Secretary of States are incredibly important in this one, because when we talk about this is another thing in messaging. When we talk about the bills, the election bills, I don't care about voter ID. Voter ID, if you want to talk about voter ID, the argument is simple. We wipe it out in 2 seconds. There's 2 points. One, not every state uses voter ID. So unless you can prove to me that the states that don't use voter ID have a substantial increase in voter fraud, which they don't because voter fraud is essentially a myth, then the states that do, then we can improve it. Second, if you do believe we need voter ID, it's universal voter ID that coincides with universal voter registration. The government sends everybody one. It's easy to replace, costs no money. Simple as that. Done. That's how you handle voter ID. We're done with that. The real problem with these voter bills are the ones that allow the secretaries of states to be removed, or allows them to remove the people who count the ballots. It allows them to take away the power from the actual voters. It allows them to to undercut the ballot counting and undercut who won the election. That's where we need to be focusing on. I don't care about Jim Eagle or whatever fancy thing you have. Talk about how the ballot boxes are being cut. Talk about how the hours to vote are. Talk about how in Texas, 50% of all the mail-in ballot applications have been rejected. Like, talk about these are the things that we're talking about. Just be better. It's time. There's no point. And this is the biggest one. Stop pretending they're your friend. Like, don't say I want to work across the aisle with them. You cannot coincide these two ideas. You cannot rightfully say, which they are, that the Republican Party is not only an existential threat to democracy and America. To some extent, with their climate stuff, they are a direct existential threat to the existence of humanity on this planet.
Right.
But on the other hand, hey man, we want to work with them because some of them have good ideas. When you work with them, it's them coming to the table with you. You're not going to the table to them. You're not saying, oh, I want some Republicans to work with me so we can pass legislation. It's here are my ideas. You're coming along with me. You want to negotiate? This is where my starting point is. This is where we're starting, and we're going to the left. Like that is a big thing. You can't say that they're an authoritarian party, but also say, hey, I want to work with them on voting rights. And the voting rights stuff, like, look, Manchin it's time to play hardball with him. He's not going to pass Build Back Better. He never was. Every excuse he gave was a lie. And depending on what time of the day you caught him, depending on what time of the which day you caught him, his excuse was different and it was still a lie.
Yeah.
At this point, Joe Manchin has essentially killed Joe Biden's presidency. So it's time to start investigating Joe Manchin's daughter, because Joe Manchin's daughter is directly responsible for the spike in EpiPen prices, because she and her company Mylan helped kill a competitor so that they could have a monopoly in the market, which caused the EpiPens to spike 600%. The problem with healthcare is it's live or die. If you are diabetic and I offer you insulin at $1 and I offer you the same insulin at $10 million, you don't have a choice, whatever the price is, because your other option is you die. So when you're dealing with things like that, it is important to be aggressive with him. Because look, Joe Manchin's not going to do anything with your presidency. He's not going to do anything worse to your presidency at this point. I don't know what to do about Kirsten Sinema. I just don't. But the point is, run on bold progressive ideas, because they are popular. Populism exists. It's a popular thing. Right-wing populism exists, but it's in theory, it's fraud in practice. But you're right. Messaging is the biggest problem, because it is so frustrating that we're dealing with this. And the other thing is, like we talked about at the beginning, the American people are kind of dumb. we also have a small attention span. So when you have these big ideas, having them as a slogan is the best way to do it. So like the idea that Medicare for all is freedom. It is freedom. It's medical freedom. You don't have to worry about bankruptcy. You don't have to worry about being tied into a job. You don't have to worry about, you can start doing new companies and stuff. That is what freedom is. You start couching it in terms that the simplest American would understand. The
right.
Patriotism. Talking about things that aren't like don't let them use words like socialism and communism. Don't use those words either, because first off, no American knows what those means when they talk about the people who
they really don't. They really don't.
The people who describe them, like if you ask a person to describe what's wrong with socialism, they'll describe capitalism. Like that's the like they'll say, oh, we're in socialism because the food banks are, or the grocery stores are empty. Like why? Or if you have an argument like, oh, I don't want to take the COVID vaccine because farmers making money. Okay, nationalize pharma. You don't want to go that left, then you're still in capitalism. Like you can couch these in terms that don't under in socialism and stuff. Don't use that term, and don't engage with anybody. Like ask them to describe it, because and this is the easiest thing. Just use their words against them. These people are so dumb and they're so blatantly obvious about their inability. Like the best part of this is the dumbest, loudest people are their favorite. Like Marjorie Taylor Greene. Don't even worry about Marjorie Taylor Greene. Use Josh Mandel. Use Josh Mandel. I don't know if you know who Josh Mandel is.
Oh my God.
Josh Mandel is the front runner in the Ohio Senate race for the
right.
You should go watch his debate with Morgan Harper. It's incredible. Okay. He is wrong on every single point. He doesn't even answer the question. This man does not believe that there's a separation in church and state. And he proudly talks about that. We have Lauren Boebert saying that the Constitution has never evolved. Like, we have Madison Cawthorn arguing that January 6th was an inside job, which is a totally another different thing. Like, they are Alex Jones. It's very easy to just start cutting the ads. And I'm not talking about the Lincoln Project ads where it's like, oh, it gives you the warm and fuzzies because of something. Like, it's time to be aggressive. This is not a difficult ideology to push. The people want this. We are objectively right on most things. Medicare for all is both better, efficient, and it would be cost less than the current system.
Right.
Dealing with climate will create more jobs, and less people will die. The giving cash will raise people out of our system. I'm not a socialist. I'm a democratic socialist. I still believe you can have a capitalistic system with some better systems. I just want more safety nets. I just don't want us to live in this hell world where, like, if you're not a bajillionaire, you're fucked.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, man. God, man, you made a lot of great points. I'm trying to see where I want to.
You want to cut me off? I love this. I talk about this shit all day.
No, but you were making such great points. I was like, I'm not stopping him. This is great. I'm not stopping him. But man, I've been saying that for a long time. Like with economy, like if you could, a lot of the programs that people say are socialist, right? Like those things are actually really good because your alternative is like horrendous. Like just Social Security alone, Social Security, that's a socialist. That's people coming together and working together to take care of the old elderly. Like you want your grandma that's on the street, you want to take care of her. Nobody wants to take care of their grandma. You're happy the government is handing her a check, so you don't have to.
No, I'm sure there are people who are happy to take care of their grandma, but like it's
no. I'm saying like they don't have the means. Like
right, yeah,
people don't have the means.
Yeah, no, like Social Security is like the most popular thing. Like talk about like when you do this, like when you expand Medicare and stuff, or if you raise the child tax, universal pre-K, that was the one. It was in Build Back Better. They were going to do the same thing to universal pre-K that they did to the Medicare expansion. So there's currently like still 6 or 7 states that haven't expanded Medicare under Obamacare, even after the pandemic, in which case it was like essentially free for them to do it because the government picked up like all the costs. Yeah. They're going to do the same thing with universal pre-K. Just pass universal pre-K and then say like, look, and every state that does not do this. Just run on them. Say they don't want to educate your children because they know it's better for them. And we're not even getting to their book burnings and all of that stuff, because that's a whole other different.
Oh yeah, man, they've been systematically like getting rid of textbooks and other educational books, just like in mass.
Well, this is also not recent either. I mean, this has been a generational thing. That's like the modern view of the Texas view of the Civil War. The War of Northern Aggression was done by the Daughters of Liberty, like the Daughters of the Confederacy. Like that's who did it. The other thing, like this is also a really interesting point for the book burnings and stuff. If your argument is about CRT, which is to some extent, I believe in Alabama, there's people complaining that Black History Month is now CRT, which everyone
that argument is so dumb. Like because I don't even think people know what critical race theory is. It's like people don't go to Google the term and go, hey, this is what this actually means, and go then apply it. Like there's no critical thinking anymore whatsoever. You can just throw some fancy label on things and people go, oh my God, it's the devil. Like, no, it's not. It's not even being used.
It's even better than that, because the guy who started, Christopher Rufo, has directly said that like he's essentially making this up to like freeze a whole bunch of different progressive ideas. Like he's done that. But my point to this is, if your idea is about critical race theory and it's about teaching things in a historic account, and there keeps becoming a recurring theme where people who are either teaching the Holocaust or have to discuss the Holocaust or like the KKK keep running into the idea, whether it's in the legislation or not, but they're worried about it, that they can't teach it unless they teach it in a neutral way. When we're talking about like the Holocaust, I think your legislation has failed spectacularly, and you should probably look at yourself and decide, oh wait, maybe we are actually like fascists, and that's a problem, and we shouldn't be passing this legislation. Because the other thing, like half the CRT legislations don't talk about CRT because it's not a thing. And also, there's two things to this as well. One, if your child is learning CRT in grade school, your child's a fucking genius, because it's a college level course that they teach lawyers at like Yale. There's like 7 people in the country who take a CRT course. Second, when they talk about, oh, this is the basis for CRT, do you tell your child that they're learning quantum physics when you teach them basic algebra in school? No. Every idea, every complex idea exists on a foundation of other ideas. So if you're arguing like that equity is CRT, well, then I guess basic math is rocket science. Like you have to learn something originally in order to learn more complex concepts. Nobody just wakes up one day and it's like, oh, I understand. I'm an astrophysicist now, or I understand string theory, or whatever it is. Like you have to start somewhere. So that's where the issues like come up. Like it's, and this is the thing. Like I love talking to right wingers about this stuff because I'm right. And to be fair, like I haven't read all of like Abramax Kendi or all this stuff where they'll find like James Lindsay's a CRT nerd. Like he can like tell you the pages where he thinks things are wrong. Like I haven't done that. I don't care. Yeah. Because I don't need to argue the specific points on that, because I can argue the broader generalities that they're pushing, and I can push back on. We don't have to be, the 700 IQ. I'm smarter than you unwashed masses. Like, you can talk to them on their same level. I spent months arguing anti-vax stuff. All those people left probably because I was right and they didn't want to deal with my intelligence.
Yeah. I was arguing anti-vax stuff, like arguing with them on Clubhouse, and it was getting ridiculous. Like I was in rooms, like I want to say I was devoting like 6 hours unsolicited of my time to argue with them every day. And each time they come up with something new, I'd just be impressed. You think the vaccine does what? You think it gives you cancer? Like the government, if the government wanted to give you cancer, they have a lot more efficient ways of doing that.
Also, like, it'd be kind of cool to be magnetic.
Wait, what?
Like you're like one of the things was, and the French actually did a study on this to prove that it was wrong. Is Tenpenny was pushing that the vaccine made you magnetic. Like other than the fact that you might like fry your electronics and stuff, being magnetic would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Especially
like if you can control the push and pull, like you're Magneto.
Yeah, exactly. And he's like insanely powerful. It would be like that would be awesome. And then there's the other ones, like the ones you always hear. And sometimes you get bored and you're like, okay, I hear this all the time. Let me look into this. Half of these things don't hold up to like a basic Google search. Like all the young kids in Europe or all these healthy athletes are having heart attacks and dying. It's like, no, they're not. I mean, they are having heart attacks and dying, but they're not doing it at a higher rate. And a lot of it has to do with specifically how they train for soccer. Like it's nothing to do with the vaccines. And this is the abject worst one. Like, I hate Dinesh D'Souza. He might be the dumbest person. Like, to be clear, for those of you who don't know who Dinesh D'Souza is, in our system where we have allowed for the legal bribery of politicians through campaign donations, motherfucker went to jail for it. That's how dumb he is. Dinesh, he's a clown. Dude, go look up the trailer for 200 Meals. It's like the funniest thing you've ever seen. Anyway, when Betty White died, he had a Twitter post saying, we finally learned the cause of Betty White's death because there was conspiracy theorists who said she died from the booster. And then he was like, oh, I didn't post this, but I'm not going to take it down, even though I have it up. It's like, she died because she was old as shit.
Like she was 99.
Yeah.
It was time.
The same thing, like Bob Saget, I'm pretty sure had a heart attack or like a stroke or something that had nothing to do with the vaccine. Like they did an autopsy on it. They're still like every time. Or they like the other thing is this is more than just like the fringes. There was a comedian in Texas who just like collapsed and had a skull fracture. And they thought it was because of the booster, because in her like Facebook post put up by her manager, it said she was boosted like 3 weeks ago and then she tested negative for COVID. Well, of course, they're going to check if it's COVID. Like that's the thing. It doesn't mean the vaccine did it. That's not how vaccines work.
Right. Like they think correlation equals causation, and that's never it. And that's how I know people just don't pay attention in school ever. Like they teach you that like in high school, like at least bare minimum, you should be getting that in high school. Like when you're doing your experiments, you do a hypothesis and you see, does your hypothesis hold up to the light of your test? And when you have that, oh, okay, this outcome happened. Well, it's not a result of me putting fire to that particular element. It's just these two elements, when they touch, hey, it goes crazy. Like it's not the other. It's not one to one. It's not one to one. That's what I was trying to say. It's not one to one.
No, it's and then let me just bring it back because I think you kind of wanted about an hour. Just very quickly on the Joe Rogan stuff. He has a list of somebody made a list about the right wing versus the left wing guest. Let me just share this with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, if you okay, if it's okay, what is it? Okay, right here.
So if you look on the left, there's like first off, there's like 18 people. And then on the right, it's 36 to 138 different appearances. Okay. Now, some of the people on the right that they're arguing about, they're saying are actually lefties. Tim Pool is not a lefty. Dave Rubin is not a lefty. Barry Weiss is not a lefty. These are people who have left.
Let me share this with them so they can see it on YouTube.
So on the left it says left appearances, and those are some good names there. But there's way less. Like you have Tim Dillon, who's 10. Like if you scroll down, like Tim Pool was predicting Donald Trump would win 48 states. Dave Rubin has very openly done why I left the left. Barry Weiss, I can't. Barry Weiss is like the ultimate Twitter troll, like the like pushing. She was on Bill Maher's recently saying, I'm done with COVID because I wore a mask and I washed all my clothes and stuff. And then, I'm just done. I was like, I did all the COVID. I watched all Tiger King. This is my least favorite type of person, at least on the left. I'm done with COVID. Look, I'm sorry you're a child. I'm sorry that these inconveniences to you, because most of the people who are complaining about this are people who have been just slightly inconvenienced,
Mm-hmm.
like having to wear a mask and stay home and stuff, like the managerial class.
Right.
Sorry that this is bothering you, but COVID doesn't care. And the people who are actually dealing with COVID, they don't care either. So when you say, oh, COVID's done, I'm done with COVID,
Mm-hmm.
guess what? That's not how it works. Get over yourself, stop being such a spoiled little baby, and let's deal with the actual problems.
Right. Man, bro, it was amazing having you on. I didn't even have to say much. You were just, man, that's crazy. And then again, I am operating off of 2 hours of sleep. I barely got any sleep last night. I got in at 1 a.m.
Damn,
like got up at 5 after a shower, and I was just like, I was like, I still gotta do this. But so I'm glad you were able to just like drive it home. Because we agreed a lot when we were talking. We agreed a lot.
No, I did say that when we were talking about, I was like, do you want a topic where something we could push back on? This is like, to be fair, one of the things that I think when I have these type of conversations, it's always good to reach out to a new audience and stuff, but it is a little helpful to have a person who pushes back as well. That's not to say that this is not helpful for both of us, but usually having larger panels, like when you're discussing topics, are good, because then it's not just like a circle jerk. Like I had one like a couple months ago where we were doing talking about gun control, but we didn't have anybody who was a right-leaning person on to push back on some of the points, because I don't know all the finer points about gun control. And then after it, I had one of my right-leaning guests come on, or and talk about pushback. Like, so yeah, it does help to have that, but it is an introductory thing. Look, I think you guys got plenty of my opinions, and if you disagree with them, well, you can find me at Twitter at FreshFacesNewIdeas, or you can find me on all right, that's on Twitch. If you can find me on Twitter at Faces Ideas, and you can come yell at me there, and I will yell right back at you.
All right. All right, yo. So listen, this has been episode 103 of the Homeroom with Smooth podcast, man. Thank you for coming on. Fresh Faces, New Ideas, man. Y'all make sure y'all go subscribe, follow, find him on Twitter and all that other stuff, man. Thank y'all for watching. We are out of here.